Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Special Town Council meeting for May 5th, 2014. I think this is the last of the budget workshop meetings. If we could all please rise for a moment of silence. We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Thank you. Fishbein.
Here.
Laffin.
Here.
Letourneau.
Here.
Mansfield. Parisi.
Here.
Russo.
Here.
Sullivan.
Here.
Testa.
Here.
And Chairman Schiavone.
Here, thank you. Before we get into what's on the agenda, I just want to confirm last call for questions for the building department. I believe we have none. In which case, Mr. Boyne, thank you for coming. You are dismissed. All right, and we'll start with Parks and Recreation. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks.
If you could please remind us who you are for the benefit of the record.
Michelle Bjorkman, Superintendent of Recreation, and to my right is Jennifer Griswold, who is our Executive Secretary. John Golick is out due to some family emergency with his dad, so he's up at Hartford Hospital today.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, so we will do the best that we can.
Okay. Do you have any opening or introductory remarks?
I guess we've again come in under budget than what we have in the past. John runs a very tight ship. Our budget is very frugal. We have not really asked for anything that's not necessary in this year's budget, and we hope that we get approved.
Okay. Any questions? Councilor Laffin.
Hi, good evening, and for the record, I'm also on the Board of Directors for the Wallingford Center for the Arts. So just to put that out there, they do receive funding through the public Park and Rec line. The technology you guys have introduced in the last year or so, I know John's not here. I was hoping that he could share a little bit of the benefits that you've seen on the cost end. Are you guys aware of any?
Yes, office supplies have decreased. We're using a lot less paper, a lot less ink cartridges. It's been really tremendous in a lot of ways, not just in savings as far as office supplies. We're now able to contact program participants, excuse me, much more expediently. We can email now and actually text program participants to notify them of last-minute class cancellations. If, for example, an instructor has an emergency and we have to cancel, we don't have to call each individual, on the phone, so it's faster that way as well. So we've had a lot of positive feedback with the new software.
I didn't have any other one. I had a question about the park, but that was just up in the newspaper, so all my answers, I got all my answers from that, but thank you.
All right, thank you. Next is Councilor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, ladies.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. Hey, under the Capitol, the Doolittle Shade improvement, help me understand what that's about, would you please?
What we're looking to propose is, if you're familiar with Community Pool, we have the 4 shade structures that we purchased many years ago. Public Works installed those for us. The canopy actually comes down at the end of the season. We've had many requests over the years. Once the new Doolittle Playscape was developed and installed to have shade along the north side, just because when parents are over there, we do have some trees, but they haven't established growth yet. A proposal was made by the Wallingford Parks and Recreation Commission to perhaps move the Rotary Pavilion that was built a few years back, donated to the town, that is located along the baseball field over to the playscape. One of the rec commissioners had done a little homework and determined that it was going to cost approximately $5,000 to transfer that shade pavilion over to the playscape area, and then Public Works would be pouring a concrete pad for us to have that established. We did get some quotes from Shade Structure, which is the company that we used. Actually, it is the Shade Structure, but some quotes, and I think we came in around $6,000. Hold on one second. The Doolittle Park Shade Structure, which is a 25 by 25 size piece, would be $6,346. Now, the quote, as I just mentioned, was $5,000 to have the Rotary Pavilion moved, plus pouring the pad, which I'm not sure what that price would be. So it was a suggestion that was made.
So we're looking at just, Michelle, one structure?
Correct.
And is it going to be see-through from the street? So if the police, there's nothing that's going to be blocking visibility to the playscape, right?
If the police were to patrol into the Doolittle playground or into the Doolittle playscape area, the parking lot, they would have access to it. The visibility, they still would have visibility, it just may not be as great from the street side.
Okay.
The other thing you might be aware of, the current placement of that pavilion is difficult when there's a ball game going on in the field. At least that's what I understand. Balls get hit over there, so to have the pavilion in a different location really makes it somewhat more user-friendly.
But correct me if I'm wrong, I think what I heard was the pavilion wasn't being moved, that they're going to be purchasing the shade structures.
No.
No, we're presenting.
You are going to move the
We're
pavilion?
presenting to move the pavilion, the existing pavilion,
Okay, all right.
based upon council approval. If not, we would look to purchase a shade structure, similar to the ones at Community Pool.
Oh, you know what, I'm sorry, I'm looking down the line, my glasses are kind of up and down here. That's the wood carpet at Kendrick Park, is the 6Gs, right?
Yes,
Okay, sorry,
yep.
my bad.
But also, in addition, as the mayor just mentioned, John does not permit out that Community Lake Pavilion, Doolittle Park Pavilion, due to the fact that we do have many baseball, softball games there. The only time that the Park and Rec Department utilizes that structure is when we do our annual Frisbee Dog, which is on a Wednesday night, and we cancel games. However, the YMCA does utilize that pavilion on a regular basis throughout the summer for their Camp Olbrich as a drop-off place for their kids.
Now, movement of the pavilion, will that be done, Mayor, by the Public Works, or we have someone else that's going to do that?
My understanding is we need someone else to be involved with the moving of it. And I understand that the donor of that, the Rotary Club, is fine with the movement. Is that correct?
That's my understanding at this point.
Okay, so the 5,000 is pouring the pad and moving it to the new site.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you for clarifying, I appreciate it. Michelle, outside of your operating and maintenance, it looks like you have about, I added them up quickly, about $121,000 in donations that go out to the various leagues and organizations. The dues and fees, I know we ask every year, but I don't recall. What's the dues and fees cost in the operating budget? It's $1,000. It's not a lot of money, but
The dues and fees. Oh, yes. All right, for the dues and fees. We did, as Jennifer just mentioned, we just decreased that from $1,500 to $1,000. We use that for our annual conferences that we attend, Connecticut Recreation Park Association, National Recreation Park Association, And over the years, we've really had predominantly just the managers attending those conferences.
Okay. And it looks like you've earmarked a lot of money for Kendrick Park. Was there a drive there was a drive, right, to raise money?
Yes.
Yep, actually, we've got two of the members of the Kendrick Park Committee in the back.
Wonderful.
That have been very big supporters in that. They have met up there on numerous occasions. In our capital, we've proposed having $6,000 for the wood carpeting, which is basically a mulch, but it's a mulch that has no chemicals or pesticides in it.
Okay.
And then a basketball court system to refurbish that. And I know Teresa Cipriani has been working very well with John on that topic. And we've had another gentleman, John LaRue from Playground System?
Big Toys, it's a playground manufacturer, equipment manufacturer they've met with about putting in a playscape as well. There have been donations already made, and I believe the girls plan on continuing with some of the fundraising in order to realize their project completely.
So Jennifer, is this dollar value of 6346 for the carpet and 6714 for the basketball court, that's without any funds that are raised through the neighbors, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and what are the funds earmarked for that the neighbors are raising?
The actual playscape structure.
Oh, okay.
And there are some landscaping, like wood timbers and things that they're,
Wonderful. Thank you for doing that. That's about all I have. You know, about 3 years straight now you've come in under budget. And I know that the rec department has become a revenue generator too for the fees, for services and so forth. And I know that a lot of the people in town really utilize our Park and Rec department up on Fairfield Boulevard. I know I do, and I enjoy it. So thank you very much for indulging me. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
thank you.
Thank you. Next is Counselor Testa.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I wanted to ask about basically what the situation is like with the soccer fields and the leagues, specifically regarding the high schools, or the high school, maybe at least Lyman Hall or whatever, having to use the town fields because of their own fields not always being either available or up to snuff. And I've had a lot of people contacting me with concerns about the difficulties that's been causing, or in their opinion anyway. I'm just, how is that handled and what's been going on with that? I ask about this because we, concurrently talking about the need to renovate the athletic complex at Lyman Hall. So, and I think that this is there are repercussions of their field conditions that aren't necessarily understood. It seems to be affecting, the town as a whole, through the soccer leagues use of the town fields. Can you update me a little bit on that? What it's been like and what the problems are?
There have been a few challenges, and again, I don't mean to defer to John on that because he does handle the soccer fields and all
Right.
the fields. But he did put together a note that Vets Park, the enhancements were deferred to the end of August of 2014, just due to the weather this winter that we've had. He's also mentioned that having that during the fall will have greater flexibility to program the soccer fields there. And then he also had mentioned that Pragman Park, what other field was it? Was it West Side?
I think it's West
West Side, that he was looking to have the fields, have some work done on those fields as well, due to the fact that Lyman Hall has used them consistently for either football and whatnot. So he is looking at putting additional money into them and maintaining them, closing down some fields just to give them a break, but still working with both athletic directors to try to accommodate their needs as well.
But is it safe to say that their need to use fields other than those that are on the school property is beating up our fields that
Yes.
and then impacts our ability to accommodate the leagues
Yep.
that are also paying and joining to play.
Correct. And then I guess with the Gaylord fields, that there's not going to have access to those Gaylord fields. We're going to have softball teams looking to have access to our fields as well.
Yeah, and that's another issue. I'm
Correct.
mainly concerned about, what I asked about.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's all.
Thank you. Next is Counselor Mansfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. Just for the record, I too am on the Wallingford Center for the Arts Board, and my family, I think, lives at the Park and Rec for 4 seasons and on every ball field. So I do commend your staff for what you're doing on safety and maintenance as well. I just have to ask a question about your the budget priorities, and if you want to defer until John. You're coming under budget, which is great, but you have a number of projects that have been earmarked. John had shared with us a list of future considerations that aren't in 14-15 budget, but some of them look like safety concerns. And of course, we just mentioned West Side. We've got Moran and Dag. We've got Doolittle lighting. You've got the gymnasium additions, which is nice to have. Is there any contingency that you need to look for because you're deferring maintenance, perhaps, on some of these fields? Is there anything from looking ahead for this next year that you would need to keep an eye on for safety and maintenance without having access to new fields and improvements here? And if, again, without John here, we can easily defer, but.
Well, we've been working, closely with Public Works as far as the maintenance of our facility, the maintenance and safety of the pool roof that's been replaced. We've had 2 of our rooms, 14 and 15, have new floors installed. Obviously, it would be nice to have an additional gymnasium just for the access, but that's not high on the priority list. I think it's just basic maintenance of the fields. I know John goes out with Steve Palermo and Henry with the risk manager to do a tour of the fields and parks to put together a list of items that might need to be addressed. And we really have been checking off quite a few within the last couple of years.
Maybe I can help. West Side and the improvements there are in the capital and non-recurring budget.
Okay, perfect.
So there's funding there, and I think the plan is to do the additional fields at Moran and Dag Hammarskjöld possibly the following year.
And so that was just to translate. So it sounds like there's no imminent safety risk, even though they're getting deferred. You've got ongoing maintenance. They do a great job with all the rainstorms and overuse, I think, sometimes on all the fields. Public Works, everybody does a great team effort to make sure you're resodding and you're repairing after every major storm we seem to have with the season. So you're doing a great job. I don't want to imply that there was any question about how you're maintaining it. I'm just wondering if there's any trade-off between deferring and something that could pop up on contingency, and if we shouldn't be kind of looking out in the short term for contingency items that could flare up if you get a bad rainstorm, if you get another tropical storm in August.
Right.
That's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Counselor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. Nice to see you again.
Good evening.
I'd like to start off with the technology that you were asked about. I was and am one of those people that gets your text messages when Park and Rec is closed. And somebody had suggested to me that I know you have programs that you don't get enough people sign up for, and those classes are closed out. Maybe it would be of assistance, since you have this technology, that you're able to blast out a text to that effect also. And that way, people know, that a class is going to be canceled, last call, that might be of some help.
Okay.
The Doolittle shade structure issue, I understand the conflict between the baseball and where the structure is, but that's in foul territory.
Correct.
It's significantly in foul territory. Does it, not that we want anybody to get injured, but, that's the balance here. You don't want somebody going for a foul ball and running into one of those poles. Is it feasible to have 2 structures there to maintain the current structure and then to have this additional structure that you've already gotten some quotes on?
Certainly. I mean, there's not opposition in having that structure there. Originally, when it was proposed by the Rotary to build a structure and to make that donation, John's feeling and my feeling were that we strongly felt it should be over in the playscape only to accommodate those people with small children, moms and dads coming, having a picnic, etc. It was voted by the powers that be or by the people that made the donation that they wanted that location. We were very appreciative of that location. It's been very well utilized. If the town is willing to put out another $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 to purchase a shade structure over at the Doolittle Playscape, it would be in the best interest because we do get numerous concerns and complaints about it every single summer. The only shade over there is a small pine grove, which really isn't conducive, you know, for a lot of people. There are a few picnic tables over in that area, but other than that, there is no shade.
I agree, because, you know, I became a member of the Wallingford Rotary Club after that got built, but I was part of the team that put in the bushes, all the bushes there.
Okay.
That are currently there, and I was part of the team that moved the playscape to where it is now, because that was a Rotary project also. And I think that's perhaps the reason why the structure ended up not where the old playscape was, but it was because it was anticipated that the playscape was going to get moved. There was no sense in building the playscape and then moving the playscape. But in any event, is it anticipated that shrubbery and the kind of foliage that's currently around the existing structure would be at the new structure?
Excuse me, there are four trees in that general vicinity where we would want to put the new shade structure. They were relatively newly planted, so they could be transplanted, I would think, and I would have to defer to Public Works on that. But certainly, there would be enough room for both trees over in that area and the shade structure.
Let me understand the budgetary item. To move the current structure, it's the $6,000. To build a new structure, I'm getting a no.
Nope. To purchase a new shade structure similar to the one at Community Pool, the white poles with the blue canopy, would be, going back a month or so ago, we received a quote of $6,346.
Okay, and that's in the budget?
Correct.
Okay.
In our capital.
To build the new structure?
Correct.
Okay. To move the existing structure, how much is that?
We received a quote from one of our rec commissioners who contacted someone. They anticipated $5,000 to move the existing structure and then have Public Works, for an additional cost, which I don't have, pour a cement pad.
Okay, so generally it's the same amount.
Pretty close.
So monetarily, we're in the same place, moving it or building a new structure.
Pretty much.
And certainly if we build a new structure, the existing would be there. So how is this determination made? Because certainly this doesn't come before the council. Is it the Park and Rec Committee?
Well, I think it's a judgment all around. I think, you know, certainly we're interested in what the council would feel. My viewpoint is that the current location renders it not very usable. As Michelle indicated, they really don't permit it out during baseball season. We would have to put in a fence or something to block the foul balls, which obviously disrupts the vista there if you have a chain link fence all the way along there. So there's been reluctance to put a fence there, and that limits the effective use of the structure in the existing location. But if everyone wants to keep a structure there, we can do that. But again, I'm not sure that it's going to be as usable a location as it might be because of the ball field.
I understand, and this is the first that I'm hearing of this, you know, this issue. I just know at Doolittle, you know, many times Family Day, for instance, it's been inclement weather.
Mm-hmm.
The only area of refuge is that pavilion.
Correct.
So now you'd end up, you know, all the way in the back, the only area of refuge. You know, there's got to be some way these two can operate. I don't want to micromanage what you do. I'm very interested, but will go on. The line 55700 on the first page, which is continuing education and training, very important, but I'm looking at, last year there was an appropriation of $5,000, and at least through 7 months of this, this budget, only about a third of it has been used. Do we anticipate using the rest of that?
Oh, right. Yes, we do, actually. That is used for, we're mandated to offer hepatitis B vaccinations to any new staff that come on. Fortunately, that has decreased the amount of people that we are required to offer that to, because once the child is born, they are mandated to have that shot, so that if we're hiring anybody, usually 30 and older, they're the ones that we're offering that shot to. Is training's coming out of that?
So there's about
Training also, yeah.
We also have some training coming out of that as well.
Okay, because I'm looking at the year prior there too, and only $1,000 was used that year, and that was for the entire year. So looking at the trend,
It should continue to go down, because as we hire younger staff, which we typically do for playgrounds and summer programs, those people are not going to be in need of the Hep B shots. So that line we should see that decreasing.
yeah, so you're at anticipated $4,500 for this year. For this coming budget, I don't see you hitting half of that, based upon the trends that I'm seeing.
No, that's,
I just didn't know if I was missing something. You probably,
actually, yes. There are,
In addition to the hepatitis B vaccination, we do have, as I had mentioned to Mr. Sullivan, our Connecticut Recreation Park Association annual membership, our LEARN membership, our National Recreation Park Association membership, and any conferences that we may attend outside of those, that would be coming out of this as well.
well,
that's,
the membership should be in dues and fees.
yeah, just to correct that dues and fees, those two accounts, there seems like there's a little bit of overlap there. What it actually is, the dues and fees pay for the memberships, the professional memberships for the managers. And then those same organizations host a variety of training sessions throughout the year that also the managers attend, and the training comes out of this account. We also use
When you say this account, you
continuing,
brought up a new account. 'Cause I was,
continuing education and training, the one that you asked about.
okay, because dues and fees is totally
55700.
different.
Right.
Okay.
And we also use this continuing ed and training for some of the CPR, AED, medical recertification training for certain staff.
If you're telling me you're going to use it, that's fine. I'm looking at the trends, and it doesn't, and, perhaps next year we'll revisit that. The leagues that it's anticipated funding will be given to, and they're relatively small amounts in the individual, but cumulative, you're talking about $40,000 or so. In my backup, I don't see any requests.
We do have all of the requests. We can certainly get copies to you. I believe we've done that in years past with their proposed budgets and a breakdown of their budgets.
Yeah,
So
I
we can
didn't,
certainly get that to you.
that would be helpful to me. The other thing is, I noticed, well, let's say, for example, the request from the Wallingford Cardinals. Do you have that with you?
That I think we do.
Yes.
I think I have that. on one second, we do have that here. Symphony. Yes, we do, from Paul
Sokobiak?
Sokobiak.
And how much did they request?
They sent us a request back in February 2nd, 2014, requesting, actually, this was just a total, total breakdown of their budget is $17,525. He did not request an exact amount. I believe they received $3,000? Or is it 2,000 annually?
Well, and I'm trying to ascertain, since none of these groups are affiliated with the town per se, how the amount is decided when there is no monetary request by someone.
We've established, going back many, many years ago, that the majority of the leagues were receiving approximately $3,000.
Majority are 3,000. Cardinals, actually, it was 1,000. That was going to be 1,000 again. Actually, there was a request, I don't know that whether this was brought up or not to the council. Mr. Golak had issued a request to change, a small change in this line after the fact. I don't know if this is the appropriate place to, bring that up. I have a copy of the memo.
Sure. Is there a request to change this particular line?
Well, yes, this was one of 3 lines that were asking to be affected. The Flag Football League,
Which is 58216.
58216, had consistently been $2,000. That league was going to be disbanded, so when we were in budget preparation for this budget, John Golak made the decision, because the league was being disbanded, to take that $2,000, divide it evenly, and give $1,000 more to the Cardinals, which is why you see that increase to the Cardinal line, and the other 1,000 to the Symphony Orchestra.
And I'm just trying to figure out how one ascertains that when we have a letter that doesn't give an amount is decided, we find out we have more money than we had anticipated, and we pick and choose who's going to get more money. And maybe you don't know, and that's...
The reason we were going to increase had the, what was the league here? The disbanded, it was the,
Flag football.
It's a flag football.
yeah, the flag
league.
football.
And
When
there is a memo in here to that effect.
Okay. Once that had disbanded, the Wallingford Symphony's budget, that their donation that they've requested over the years has decreased over the last couple of years. So John was looking to give them an additional $1,000. The reason we look at $3,000, and I don't know, Mayor, I might have to defer to you on that, that has been established.
Yeah,
For-
that goes way back.
Forever.
But I believe the symphony was reduced one year by the town. It had been $12,000, and it was reduced.
8 something.
And so this is recognizing that historically the contribution was more, and John felt that it should be increased. I know he shared that with me.
But at this point, we're not looking to do that because this league is not going to be disbanded. The person that was running the league was moving out of state. We are going to take the league in-house and try to run it on our own. He is no longer moving out of state, so he is going to run the league.
So I take it that you're looking to restore the $2,000 to that line and then decrease the Wallingford Symphony by 1,000 and the Wallingford Cardinals by 1,000?
Yes.
Correct. So it would remain as it was last year.
Okay.
But if you're going to, that will require action in order to redistribute those funds, because adopted as it is would not allow that to happen.
That's.
I mean, this is the first
that-
I'm hearing you're changing the recipients.
Yeah.
So you're restoring money to the flag football?
John had made that proposal to Tim Senna last week, I believe.
Yeah,
That would require a change in this proposed budget, because as it stands right now, that could not happen. Now, it could happen after the budget is adopted with a transfer, but given these are separate lines, there's no way to provide a different distribution other than what's shown here, short of action, either amendment of the budget or afterwards a transfer.
transfer.
Yeah, we can address that. I just have a problem with the concept of, you know, there's $2,000 we've traditionally given out, there's no need to give it out, and we're gonna give it to others without just saying, we'll give it back to the taxpayers. I just have a problem with that. In the capital, you have there's a memorandum. It has to do with capital programs by order of preference, I think is the word that's used, a priority. One of those items is to possibly build a gym addition to Fairfield Boulevard, estimated at $764,000. I noticed that's not in the capital improvement plan, the cap and non-recurring for the next 6 years. Is that a realistic, or is that like a wish list sort of thing?
That's been a wish list for probably the last 4 years, I believe.
Yeah, the additional gym space was put on hold as a result of the 2008, 2009 deterioration. And that's probably, who knows, $600,000 to $1 million.
I seem to remember when I was on Zoning Board of Appeals that we granted a variance to allow an expansion of the building because it would have, I think, crept into a setback. So that had to be 2007, 2008.
Okay.
Yes, before I was up here, I was just wondering, you know, given the economic climate, that's a large dollar amount, and, you know, I certainly appreciate the facility that we have, but, you know, I also get people that say, well, why don't we have another facility on the other side of town? So I was just wondering about the status of that. I think that's all I had, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Yes. Councilor Letourneau? Oh, if you would yield to Mr. Bose.
If I may, just a point of clarification. Mr. Gwalak did send me the request for a change of the $2,000 that are reallocated. I was under the impression that he forwarded that to you as well, but it sounds like it's not. But we can take that up when the council does their motions, just to, if the council wishes to pursue that, to change the $2,000 and reallocate it.
Thank you. Councilor Letourneau?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The question I was going to get into, Councilor Fishbein already covered, and that was that reallocation of the money for the $2,000, just what we were talking about. But one quick question. The bleachers at Pat Wall Field, are they coming back, or they've been removed? So is that something that you know about, or? I don't know if that's you or Public Works or.
That would be a recommendation made by our department, but I have to defer to John on that. I assume they are probably coming back, but I'm not aware of that at this point.
Okay, I was just curious because they've been
Anything here?
removed now probably, I guess probably about a month, and I'm starting to get a couple of phone calls on it, like where's the
Okay.
bleachers? Because the ball games have started, so if you can get back to me on
Yep,
that.
I will definitely do that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the council for Park and Rec? Councilor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just on a quick follow-up, Michelle, it's really not budget related, but I know there was a story in the paper, and I just wanted to clarify. I got a call from John, Vietnam Veterans Field. The parking situation has been put on hold. Can you just give us an overview of why and the measures that have been taken by the two leagues that use the park right now to offset the safety issues on Friday nights?
What John has as far as project parking enhancements were deferred until the end of August due to the other project priorities and a long winter. All parties agreed to not have an open construction area complicating park access more than what exists currently. The fall season offers greater flexibility to moving those activities at that point.
Yeah, and I thought that's important because the newspaper didn't say that, and the leagues have hired an off-duty policeman on Friday nights to make sure traffic flows smoothly and that no one is placed in harm's way. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows that. They may not see a follow-up in the paper, but at least if they're watching this, they know that you have it well in hand and that safety is of the utmost concern. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Anything else from the council? Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Good night. Thank you.
Up next is Public Works.
Good evening. Henry McCauley, Executive Secretary Kathy Johns, now getting prepared for her second budget.
Did you say second budget?
Second.
Okay. Very good. Do you have any introductory remarks or comments?
Yes, my department continues to have a full plate of projects, future projects ongoing. We've been maintaining the same staffing levels, which is good. Under this budget, there were some savings found in our utilities. They continue to go down, which is good. I've requested quite a bit of capital equipment. However, it's need to be responsible. We do a lot of maintenance. There's a lot of old equipment that needs to be replaced. And that's basically it.
How did we do with our storm planning this year in light of our, we base it on a 5-year average, right?
Storm.
Salt, sand, fuel.
We purchased a lot of salt.
You do use an average. Henry, 5-year, right?
Yeah.
We use a 5-year average for salt. For tonnage for this year, we used 7,115 tons.
It's a lot of salt.
That's not used. We do have some left over from the winter in the barn.
Right. I recall that it came late in the season.
Yes.
A barn load, if I recall correctly. Questions from the council? Councilor Parisi?
Henry, I've been told that the green, is it a green salt or a liquid salt? Have we been using that?
We use magnesium chloride. It's straight rock salt that is treated. The salt that we purchase comes from Chile to New Haven, and it's treated with, it's called, it's a byproduct of distilling vodka. It smells like molasses, but it takes the melting point of the magnesium chloride from around 19 degrees Fahrenheit down to 5 degrees, which is very favorable in Connecticut. We rarely see temperatures going below that.
There's a lot of discussion, I'm told, about the effect that it has on automobiles and metal parts and brake linings and whatever.
It has. Actually, Public Works, we had a program this winter. We had to change a lot of oil pans in our snowplow trucks. And last year, I requested $20,000 for sandblasting and cleaning the snowplow trucks and repairing rust damage. That has now been, I've put that in my vehicle maintenance. You'll notice that that has gone up by 20,000, that request.
Has there been any move to alter this stuff or reconstitute it? I'm told that there's been a couple of seminars.
I went to the seminar
Did you go?
at Yukon.
Yeah.
And it's the public demands safe roads. And the gentleman from the state that was there is, if you're using it like we are very diligent about washing the trucks after storms. We put corrosion prohibitors on, we spray it on the trucks. You really have to stay on top of that because it will rot your vehicles.
But that's, my point is what it's doing to the public. I guess there've been some accidents due to brake linings rusting out. I was just curious if there's any move to use it or reconstitute it or do something to it to help slow down the, the way it.
Well, I think in the Northeast, in those areas that use this product, cars may have to be modified, new cars, old cars, replace the brake linings with a less corrosive lining.
Yeah, stainless steel now.
It really is at the seminar, there was no solution to this.
No solution.
Going back to sand really is not an option. There's most of the sand pits have been exhausted around here. There's really no good quality sand anymore. And
I was just curious if there's
We
any.
do find, though, that as far as public safety goes,
Right.
when we started experimenting with the salt, it's compared to sand, the sand mix, there's no comparison.
Right.
And there's other benefits. There's less sweeping of your streets.
Yeah.
There's less catch basin cleaning, so.
Catch basins aren't full of sand.
And I don't know how the state will address it, DEEP will address it as far as salination of ponds or anything.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Kathy. Hi, Henry. Listen, thanks for taking the time a few weeks ago to walk me through your budget. I appreciate it. I got a couple questions that I missed, though, when I was with you. And the first one is the plow truck with equipment, that we're hoping to purchase through the surplus, right?
Correct.
It's replacing a 24-year-old truck, and that's valued at about $191,000, and that's a ton of money. My question is, Henry, how old is our fleet? How often do we need to get out and purchase? And I mean, do we forecast out what trucks, purchases we're going to need down the road?
Well, when I became director and I met with Mayor Dickinson, I tried to stay on a 10-year where we continually replace the vehicles, and I think that's why we always request a snowplow truck. And, I give kudos to our garage for the maintenance. This truck is still running. We will get a little bit of money for it when we trade it in.
Okay. But that's, so we would assume that maybe, do we have other trucks coming up that are going to be hitting that 10-year mark?
It's a long
Just
list.
off the top of your head, you don't have to.
It's a long, yeah, we have trucks that are early 1990s,
Okay.
92, 92, 93, 94.
So it's safe to say in the next 5 years or so, we're going to be replacing some trucks here and there?
We replace trucks every year because of that rotation.
Yep.
At least one truck every year.
Okay,
And there have been times that we actually got two trucks.
okay. That was just a concern.
Yeah.
We've had some severe winters. I think the past 2 out of 3 have been pretty tough on your equipment. I also see you have a loader in here, and that's also being funded from the surplus, which is a good thing. So when we talk about the surplus, we talk about, you know, there's money there, but a lot of that money is accounted for. And Jim, was it over 4 million that is going to be allocated to the budget out of that dollar value? Somewhere around there, right?
4.3 plus 959 in capital items that we remove from the budget that
Right.
proposed.
So just for the folks at home thinking we don't hit the budget, like, you know, the surplus, once in a while, we do hit the surplus, and these are two
Correct.
big ticket items.
We're sort of using it after it's counted, though, which most entities in government, including the state of Connecticut, try to use it before they count it. And therefore, we're not getting our 55 bucks, and that made me angry.
Thanks, Jim, for the details. That's all I had, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Henry. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you. Next is Counselor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. Nice to see you.
Good evening.
I guess my first question is to Mr. Bose. Sorry, Jim. Looking at the second page of their budget, actually, I think I'm answering my own question. The fact that there's expenditures in the 6/30/13 actual, but there's nothing to the right, is because that was appropriated in 12/13. Answer my own question.
Correct, yes.
Thank you. Back to Henry, thanks. Henry, in line 57240, replace fluorescent lights, town buildings. Does that mean we're replacing fixtures or bulbs?
This is the second year that I've requested these funds. I requested them last year, and we finished the Fairfield Boulevard. We replaced all the T12s with the new T8s. They're more efficient.
So does that mean we're replacing?
And there was it's a program through the electric division, and we got a rebate of $12,000 for that job, and the same would apply to the town hall.
Okay, so are we replacing fixtures or bulbs?
It's both.
Okay. And I don't know what those Ts mean. Are we converting over to LEDs, or are we doing fluorescence again?
It's fluorescence, yes.
There's a $12,000 revenue line item, both in the current fiscal year and in next fiscal year, the budget you have in front of you, for the the CLM, Conservation Load Management Reimbursement through the electric division funds. So there's a little bit of an offset there to help us out.
According to the backup, the backup reflects there's a rebate of $19,872.
Yeah, I think that was, well, 12,000 is this year, I think 19,000 is next year.
When you say next year, next budget year?
The budget that's in front of you. And I believe that actually, originally the projection was 19,000. I think it's been pared back a little bit based upon the amount of applications received for those CLM funds. And I think it's between 12 and 13,000 for the budget that you're looking at as well.
Is there a particular revenue line specifically for that?
Yes.
It's actually, the backup is actually the last page of our backup for my fellow counselors. Yeah, Jim, I did a little perusal. I didn't find it, but.
The revenue is recorded on page 12, obviously in the revenue detail. You'll see a $12,500 offset for fiscal 14-15. I checked with Mr. Hendershot at Electric regarding that because it seemed a little bit high to us. So it's going to be between 12,000 and 13,000. So I used 12.5 for the revenue offset that you'll see in that column.
Okay, so that conservation load management reimbursement is just for this project?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, it doesn't, I don't think it matches up with the backup, but talking about pennies there, so. Henry, the snow plowing. I know we've had some horrendous winters past couple of years, but I get people that contact me, their street hasn't been plowed. Can you just generally, what's the plan of attack?
We've had, going back to when I first started at Public Works, we have 21 snowplow runs. We send out 21 trucks to take care of, it's approximately 12 miles each to maintain. In addition to that, we send out, not all the way back then, but recently, we send out 2 four-wheel drive payloaders with plows on them. They do the town parking lots. If they're on a street, they push the snow back. We do all the electric departments, substations. We have keys for their gates, and we do that. And we have 2 small trucks, 3-4 ton trucks that do strictly tight areas that the larger trucks can't get into. Just almost like custom plowing where we just can't relieve the public with a big truck. So they do a lot of cul-de-sacs, and they help out with parking lots. And we have 2 spare trucks that back up. If we have a breakdown, we can put them in a run to keep the consistency throughout the night.
I appreciate that. Is it fair to say that the main arteries get done first, cul-de-sacs get done last?
Exactly.
Okay. And where are parking lots and town facilities between those two?
Well, the parking lots are the responsibility of the payloaders. They take care of parking lots. They'll do some cul-de-sacs that we find difficult. They keep the police station opened up. They keep all the firehouses opened up. And they're just, we use them wherever we really need them. Their primary objective is not to do roads because they don't carry any salt. So sometimes if they just plow it and not salt it, I mean, they can make the road pretty slippery.
So particularly, I get communicated to by these 3 people that are in cul-de-sacs in the ridges. And I usually tell them, well, the main arteries are being done first and cul-de-sacs are the last priority.
And that's correct.
That's accurate.
That's accurate.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilor Letourneau.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Henry, on your personnel, I see department request 47, mayor approved 46 people. So what's...
There was, the position of superintendent was placed in there it was an error. When I went to the mayor's office, it wasn't supposed to be in there, and that has been removed.
Yeah, I see that on page 1, the superintendent's salary was at 86,492. So how is that working now? Is the foreman actually taking over as superintendent, or?
No, the foreman continues to do his present duties, and things are getting done. I'm quite happy with the way the department is going.
Okay. So you're going to keep it this way for some time? Just no superintendent?
No superintendent.
Okay, thank you. I saw it blank, so I felt I needed to ask about it. Thank you.
Councilor Mansfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening.
Good evening.
I just wanted to say, your team did a great job in the wintertime. I didn't lose any business traveling between our roads. As soon as I crossed out of Wallingford, there was a different story. So I just want to commend you. The risks and the safety of your team out there going through the night of so many storms It's easy to forget about that, but I just want to commend you.
Thank you.
It was a long
I'll pass the
season.
word along.
It was a long season, and you know, it's a balancing act. I know folks in the Ridges, there, we all get complaints across town of why isn't my street done, but it really was quite a balancing act for all of them. So I just want to pass that along. I asked the same question of Dr. Manzo, so I'll punt this to you as well. Your team works so intricately with many departments, of course, with Park and Rec and such, with pooling, with getting things done on schedules and making sure that projects get done. Is there an opportunity for perhaps continuing to build upon that foundation in the garage, you know, as an example of shared services? Could, you know, the Board of Ed, for example, not budget for mechanics and maintenance, and your team take over that and centralize some of those services? I just picked that out of the blue. I don't know if that's even practical given your resourcing, but is that something that could be explored?
Well, we used to have 7 mechanics. Austerity measures haven't been, we didn't replace 2 mechanics. One moved to another job and another employee moved to another department in the town. So we're down to 5 mechanics, and over the years, we took on the responsibility of the fire department maintenance. We do the fire department, we do the Meals on Wheels, and I think a new thing, Mayor, is going to be doing the buses now for the senior citizens.
Yeah, I think
Coming out of New Haven.
there's a desire to have the bus, but I don't know what you mean by Meals on Wheels.
It's a bus.
Well, that's the senior center.
The
I guess.
senior center, the senior center. So, depending on just, it'd be easy, okay, send it down to Public Works. It's, the fire department is first responders, we do them first. And,
Police department goes there too.
we maintain all the cruisers for the police department. And, I would just, to be very honest with you, this time, I would be reluctant to bring on any more vehicles.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Laffin?
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
The Class 8 plow truck that you're buying, is that replacing a Class 8 truck, or are you upgrading? I know the weather's been more
It's the
ridiculous,
same size of truck. It's just more modern. It would come with a positive traction rear end, stainless steel body, and they're called a sidewinder. Instead of the material, the salt that treats the road, being dispersed from the back of the truck via a spreader. It's a spinner.
Yeah.
If you've ever been behind one, you get a lot of little dings on your car. The new plow trucks have what they call a sidewinder, and they don't come with a spreader. The older trucks, we physically have to lift the spreader that's stored on concrete blocks.
Right.
Take off the tailgate of a truck and place the spreader on it, hook up the hydraulics. The new trucks, the body is the stainless steel body. They lifts the sand, the salt from one side, and puts onto a conveyor that takes it to just underneath the front wheels, which is the best possible place to put it. It gives the truck additional traction. You're not throwing the material at cars that are following too close, and you don't have to go through this whole thing of lifting another piece of equipment and tying it down to go out and fight snow.
No, that's good, because I know.
We've come a long way with the
Yeah,
designs.
even I know it was 2 years ago, and that was a ridiculous amount of snow, but some of the trucks had traction issues and whatnot. I wasn't sure if it's just because they're older technology, but it's good to hear that some of that's changing. The potholes in town, it seems like there's a lot more this year, just I think it's the nature of the weather that we just went through and whatnot. Is that, I was looking through, is that outsourced or is that done in-house?
Public Works has a truck going out every day,
Yeah,
unless it's raining. The problem with the potholes in the winter, the more plowing you do, the more potholes you're going to get. So we have 14 storms, the blades are down, they're tearing the roads up. And the only material that's available to fill the potholes is called cold patch. And it's a black mix. It looks like asphalt, and it will temporarily fill a hole to make it safer for the traveling public. But it's something that has to be filled constantly. And we keep a record of, where the worst potholes are, so we can tell the men when they go out in the morning, double check these roads. When you get water in these holes, the most you can do to make it safer is put a cone on it or a barricade. You really can't patch it.
What's the end game for those potholes?
Well, those, in the summer, for the last 2-3 weeks, we've been using hot patch, a hot mix that will stay there for the whole summer. And if you don't have a bad winter, it will last quite a long time.
Okay. That's it for me right now. Thanks.
Counselor Testa.
Thank you. Good evening.
Evening.
Well, since I have you here, just a quick question. I had someone contact me about where they live on a corner, and the curbing and was torn up pretty bad, and the yard was, from the plow, just from, going over a little too far. Should I contact your department, or is that engineering?
Yes, we probably have it. We go through every plow route, every street, and check every street. It's,
But if it's curbing and that's disturbed and so forth, that still would be your department to let?
Yes, if it's
Okay.
not displaced, we probably won't repair it if it's not displaced. If it's displaced, we'll cut it out and remove it and replace it.
Yeah, it's gone, but I wasn't sure.
Okay.
I know if it's sidewalks, sometimes you.
The curb is gone, it's on the list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, very gone. Okay, this question, I'm sure you. I turned myself off. You almost got lucky there. I'm sure you've been asked about this before, but I had told somebody that I would look into this. Regarding, the new transfer station, is that project complete?
Yes.
Right, that's all done. Do you have a rough estimate, what was the cost of that project? I remember talking about improving it a few years back.
I think it was in the neighborhood of 700,000. I was FOI'd on all the information and gave it to the individuals that requested it, but I don't have that in front of me.
Okay.
I don't have the exact numbers in front of you, but I believe it was in that neighborhood.
Now, when you just, because this question could be related to other projects too that I'm asked about. When you price out a project like that and you are doing some or all of the work, how do you account for that cost? Or is it, well, there's the question. How would you account for that?
Well, the labor's already built into our budget, the daily labor, whether they're building resident drop-off or paving roads, the labor's already built in. Then there's the cost of the materials, and you have to put it out to bid. The design, this drop-off, fortunately, was an in-house design through the engineering department, and
Remember that?
I know there, if we bid it, it would be more efficient. I don't know if that would be completely true. Anything over, any job that is bid over $100,000 is subject to prevailing wages in the state of Connecticut. So my men, laborers for public works, are making $22 an hour. Crew leaders make under $30 an hour. And I know that tradesmen on the outside, iron workers, masons, are making a lot more than that. So I don't know where the idea comes from that we would save all this money.
Actually, my question wasn't even implying.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, not that that particular point.
Yes.
The point of whether it was more cost effective to do it in-house.
Yeah.
That's not even, I'm just looking to, get an idea. If we do the job, if you do the job, and we see an expense, for example, of $100,000, that's going to reflect, for the most part, materials and/or any outside contractor you might have to assist you. But there's no, you wouldn't say, well, it really was $180,000 because our people did the job, and but you, do you, I guess, keep a record of how much, how many of the hours were applied to a job?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So you
It's
can
on
do
the
that.
daily reports, and
Right.
all that was FOI'd a long time ago.
I got it.
There's also, Vinny, there's also you know, when we do the project, we have full control over that project. And I like that. If we're taking on a big project, I think there's a lot to be said.
Oh, I'd like to see you doing as much as possible. I'm in favor of you doing as many projects. As I said, this is just, you know, so I can answer questions hopefully a little bit better. Finally, if you, well, in that particular project, were there any employees for the Board of Ed?
Yes.
That were assisting? How is that handled? As far as, do you allocate?
Dave Holloway is a former CB, which is the military construction units that build everything, and he has a vast amount of experience in the construction field before he came to work for the Board of Education. In return for that, the Board of Education asked us to do a couple of small paving job up at Highland School. He put some time in with us, so we reciprocated with
All
him.
right,
So we work very well.
It's not like there's no means of billing each other, but the bottom line is it's another town employee.
And it's not that I'm a believer of not doing the Board of Ed's work for them. They have people, skilled people there that can do that. But as long as we keep that fair between each other, and that has worked out very well over the last few years.
Okay, I appreciate that, and thank you. All set.
Councilor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd forgotten a subject, and I thought Councilor Testa was going to ask about it. I didn't have the opportunity to drive down Center Street today, but what's the situation with the stumps?
Stumps are still there, and I'm working with the contractor to get them out and get new trees put in. I just came back from vacation, so I'm sort of catching up on my calls.
What's the timeline?
Hopefully by the end of this month.
Okay, we're just starting this month, so...
Well, he's had the purchase orders for a while, and right now I'm working with the contractor.
And I would assume that when somebody was given direction to fire up their chainsaw, that we had a reasonable expectation as to when the job would be completed.
It's supposed to be done in April, and it's gotten delayed. It's the excuse I got to begin with was frost where they excavate these trees. And
Is this a situation where we're going to be able to be reimbursed?
we haven't spent any money yet with any of these people. They only have purchase orders.
Well, I think the condition is having an adverse effect upon our town, and the townspeople are being damaged. So while we might not have paid any money, I think we should be entitled to some sort of monetary credit for the condition that our townspeople have had to drive by, that I've had to hear about, I've had to see pictures about.
I will call you tomorrow and give you an update on it.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'd certainly like to hear that it's going to be done before the end of the month. That would make me significantly before the end of the month. So, thank you, and that's all I had. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks.
Any other questions from the council? I see a hand in the audience. During the workshops, we're not entertaining public comment. Tomorrow evening is the public hearing, and I encourage you to come back. Thank you. You're all set. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Up next is engineering.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just sit here. I have to be here with John for the...
I was just going to ask, Mr. Chairman, if we could do the six-year capital so that Henry doesn't have to sit it through my department, because that's the one where we do joint.
I appreciate that suggestion. So please, we'll skip ahead to six-year capital. Anything by way of introduction?
It's always a contest. Is this on? Yes. It's always a contest between Henry and I. It's not? It's always somewhat of a contest between Henry and I when we sit down with the mayor and Mr. Bowes to decide which projects make this. And there's a lot of projects that we both propose that get slid out to future years just because the amount of the appropriation, the $1.88 million, is limited. So we go through a very elaborate process of deciding which projects makes this annual budget list.
Thank you. Questions from the council? Councilor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I noticed that, and my understanding is this is the major capital projects that the town anticipates engaging in over the next 6 years. Is that an accurate definition? So I noticed that there's no police station on here, and which lends the question, or begs the question, about Wood and Kaplan. And is there any plan to expand the current parking area at Wood and Kaplan to the other side of the new roadway?
To the best of my belief, where the parking lot is staying the way it is until further instructions. It's a temporary parking lot, and
For at
unless there's a change to that, I don't know about expanding it.
For at least the next 6 years, it's anticipated it's going to stay the way it is, based upon what I'm seeing here.
Correct.
Okay. Is there a plan to restripe it?
Yes, that will be done this spring.
Okay. And the only other thing I had about this, because there's really no major additions in the 6th year, and we've talked about this year after year. There's a number sign next to the Fireworks Island Bridge. Is that supposed to signify something, or is that just a typo?
It's just a random hashtag that doesn't belong there. In case you get a Twitter or a tweet on that line item.
And try to erase
I know you're into that Twittering stuff.
There's an FOI issue?
It's whatever issue you want to call it.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Councilor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, gentlemen. I know it's a year out, but I see $1 million is set aside for the Northfield Road Bridge. Henry, is that one of those deals where the Public Works we're pricing it out for Public Works to do, or are we contracting that out?
We haven't gotten to that point yet, but I would.
We actually, when we started the process of design 4 or 5 years ago, Henry was more favorably inclined to do bridge projects. He'd had success on the Christian Street Bridge and the Reskin Drive Bridge. As we got into the design elements of the Northfield Road Bridge, the project became much more expansive, much more complicated in terms of the construction techniques, and it really required outside expertise because the detour to build that bridge, the road had to be closed, the detours around it were very extensive. So what we did, we initially applied for funding through the local bridge program, which provided a 32% reimbursement, approximately 32%. More recently, we had made application through the Council of Governments, through a new LOCSIP program, not LOCIP, but LOCSIP, Local Capital Transportation Improvement Program. And we were just designated to receive funding for the construction of that bridge. We've had outside design done. We received notification. All we have to do is now agree to the conditions of the award, and we'll move forward with the finalization of design, advertising for construction, and it'll be constructed by a private contractor.
So, John, how close do you feel we are to the $1 million price tag?
We actually, we're going to get 100% reimbursement through this program.
Okay.
So whatever the number is that we've asked for, and we've asked for funding in prior years, So we have some money already available in order to move forward. The LOXIP program, again, is a reimbursement, but it's periodic reimbursement. So whatever we have, we will be able to move forward with without an additional requested appropriation. That $1 million, essentially, I believe, when we do next year's budget, will be removed from the 6-year capital.
Excellent. Okay, good deal. And is there an expiration on that?
On the LOXIP,
Yeah.
the whole idea was to get these projects into construction as soon as possible to stimulate the economy. And since we had a project that was essentially designed, ready to go out to construction, that was in our favor and was a basis for the award from the Council of Governments as a priority project, and then ultimately the state decided that we were eligible for this funding.
This is a brand-new program, and at the point the bridge is finished, we'll all believe that it's worked out well.
That's a fair deal. Okay. That's all I had. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, John. Thanks, Henry.
Thank you. Counselor Testa.
Hi, John. You kind of answered part of my question, because obviously I see that there's $4 million earmarked for next budget year in capital projects in a line item or a fund that we historically only have $2 million in. So your footnote numbers indicate anticipated reimbursement or grant money. So do these streetscape and the linear trail with the asterisk or the footnotes, those kind of the dollar amounts almost placeholders just to indicate their capital projects that are expected to be done in that year?
Yes,
So-
and most of the projects with the footnotes have been already designated as funding eligible, reimbursement eligible.
Right.
So while we don't have an exact amount that we're getting reimbursement, it could be an 80% reimbursement or 100% reimbursement, depending on what program we're on, but we will be reducing the overall amount of that 4.18 that's shown for next year by reimbursements.
Got it. And this is probably a technical question for the controller, just to help me understand things. We have the capital and non-recurring, then we have capital and non-recurring fund, which is the page we're on according to our schedule, and capital appropriations reserve, which is separate. But is it pretty much just a case where, because it's considered a capital project, it's listed on page 83, as we've just been talking about? Is that why they're there?
Yes, page 83 tries to show you the revenue source as well. So in the
Right.
case that Engineer Thompson just spoke to, if we think we're going to get a couple $1 million next year in grants for these programs, you might see the expenditures on page 84 at $4 million. And in this revenue section, you might see an additional $2 million of revenues from whichever grant source, state or federal, that it might be. So this is just to show you what the source of the funding is that is providing for the resources for those projects to be carried out.
Okay. Yeah, and as I was reading over again,
It's also a summary, just summarize.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we think of this fund as typically being the electric division money, but I know the ordinance makes reference to state grants, so
We could-
that's why it can be listed in this fund, because
Correct.
the money could be coming.
Bonding sources, bond revenue could go in that fund, and also general taxes not to exceed, I believe, 2 mills under the charter. I could be wrong, so
I
please
got
allow
you.
me.
No, I
allow me
have it.
some wiggle room. But we could, in essence, put some cash in there if we wanted to raise the mill rate to put into the.
Yeah, I knew that part. Oh, that's true. So we bonded something, it could be in there as well.
That's correct.
We just have historically,
We do
for
this-
many years, we've been limiting it to, our electric division money and then whatever grant money we get. Okay,
That's correct.
excuse me.
Mayor, did you want to be heard?
Yeah, I just wanted to identify the second item on there, the 510,000, which covers the West Side Field Improvement and DAG and Moran middle schools. Those are all field improvements. They're obviously used by a variety of leagues and school services, so.
Actually, I was going to bring that.
Is there any questions?
I was going to bring that up next. I may have misunderstood earlier in the evening, but I thought there was reference to that type of work being done from surplus money, or was is that not what was said?
No.
Oh, okay, so you're saying it's going to be done from the capital project?
This is capital and non-recurring.
Right, I see it here. I thought, why is it here if it was going to be done with?
No, this is the one place.
Right.
And I think the JV football team from Lyman Hall uses West Side.
Yeah.
So that's, and the Vikings use it. I mean, these fields get a lot of use. And then
Oh,
the ones in Dag and Moran need a lot of repair, and then they become available also for.
Right. No, I'm all in favor of that. Actually, that reiterates, in my opinion, the need to, get the fields done at Lyman Hall, so we don't have our municipal fields beaten up as much as they have been because they don't have the available use at the school. But
Well, I don't think there's any ability to add this field to Lyman Hall. I mean, currently the town takes care of Pat Wall Field, which is used by Lyman Hall baseball. We care for that. I don't believe there's enough area with the improvements they're talking about to have enough field use for JV as well as
no, I wasn't implying that.
their varsity. So West Side, I believe, will continue to be used by the school. So there's a lot of coordination back and forth between Park and Recreation and the schools, whether it's Prageman Park or Westfield or maybe some other areas where the tennis courts, for instance, Doolittle tennis courts are used by Lyman Hall. They have tennis courts at Lyman Hall, but obviously with girls and boys team, you don't have enough fields for courts for everyone. So there's a lot of trading back and forth. The gyms are another example. The various basketball leagues, they're scheduled through Park and Rec, but the gyms are used at the schools frequently for the school system, as the school system uses the Park and Rec gym. So, just so you're aware, there's a coordination that everyone benefits from, I think.
I agree. I wasn't implying otherwise. And I understand that, and I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding the 6-year capital budget? And Mr. McCully, I think you're set.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Going back to engineering. Would you like to make another preamble?
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Please do.
It's really a no increased budget. We're maintaining all the services at the same additional request without any additional new programs or costs for the department.
Thank you for pointing that out. Councilor Letourneau.
Good evening, John.
Good evening.
On line 53010, utilities and traffic signals, your department request was 20,000. It was reduced to 19. How come?
That reflects a decrease in the electrical cost. We pay for the signals, we pay the electric division for the operation of all of the town-owned traffic signals. And the electric division cost is based on their rate, so based on the number of signals we have, the $19,000 was established by the mayor.
Okay, I didn't realize that was I thought that was replacement of signals or.
No, that's purely the operating cost.
Okay, thank you.
Is that all you had?
That's it, that's all I have.
Okay. Counselor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, John, once again. I'm just looking at the personnel detail. There's been some changes as far as last year. You had a part-timer, now we're going to 2 part-timers, is that?
We've had in the fall of 2011, our full-time construction inspector left, and we made a decision internally that that position didn't need to be filled on a permanent full-time basis. We explored the possibility of going part-time. We've tried over the interim time period several options for having those services provided, whether it was by a part-time employer or by outside services. We've decided at this point the best way to go is by hiring a part-time construction inspector, sidewalk inspector, to do that services. The other part-time position in the department is a part-time secretary.
So it's an expansion of personnel based upon this year, but not the prior year.
It's actually a decrease in personnel because we previously had a full-time secretary. We now have a part-time secretary. We previously had a full-time construction inspector, and now we're proposing a part-time construction inspector. So we're downsizing the department to meet its current needs.
But John, he's talking versus the current year. We're actually seeking, you're correct in the overall, because there's been tremendous elimination of positions due to attrition, retirements in the engineering office, as well as public works, et cetera. But I believe Councilman Craig is talking about comparing this year to last year, or what you got requested to the current fiscal year, unless I'm wrong, Craig.
No, you're right, Mr. Bones, thank you.
We did have a part-time, actually in last year's budget, we had
Last year, we had it classified, or the current year's budget, I should say, we keep talking last year. The current year's budget, we have it classified as a contractor, and we could not really find anybody to do that. So next year, John is proposing that we try to hire a part-time person. So the monies, I don't think, change all that much.
The monies are staying the same.
Staying
It's
the
just
same, but we're just
classification.
moving it up to a part-time paid employee versus going out to hire a subcontractor to perform that function, those functions that, John, we haven't been able to find, so.
So in other words, there are 6 full-time positions like the current year. It's just that they're counting 2 part-time, that's where you get 7.
No, it's 7 people. It's 7 people. There's 2 part-time people and 5 full-timers. His clerk is part-time, and his request is for a part-time inspector. And that's 1 more than the current year, you're correct.
But in terms of full-time equivalents, there's 6, right?
We don't use FTE.
I know, but 6 full-time equivalents.
Equivalent,
It appears
yeah.
at 7 because now 1 position has got 2 part-time.
Yeah, because last year's budget reflected 1 part-timer, but yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
6.
But John, I think John was talking to the fact that over the years that I've been here, 9, 10 years, there's been quite a few reductions in the engineering's body count, so to speak, quite a few.
All right, so the follow-up question to that is the increase in salaries and wages, which is approximately, $34,000, that is all attributable to step increases and increases for the existing?
Positions, yes.
And for the reclassification of that inspection function from a contracted position, which is down in purchase services in the current year, up into the proposed year as a personnel.
That makes sense.
You're correct.
Because otherwise, it would be like $6,000,
That's correct.
but by percentage, it had to have come from somewhere.
If you throw that reallocation in there, you're right on.
Okay, thank you. The only other thing I had, John, is I guess it's a procedural thing. I see around town, I see right across the street here on Prince Street, crushed curbing. I know we spend a lot of time and a lot of money on replacing curbing. Is there any thought to concrete curbing, which would last longer?
The curbing out on Prince Street is a stone curbing. And we're in the process of awarding our first spring sidewalk construction contract to a new contractor. That work schedule will begin. And one of the first places that I want to go is out on Prince Street, because that curbing has been beat up over the years. It needs to be replaced, and that's one of the first areas we're going to start working on. And it will be concrete curb.
Okay, is that a conversion, or are you just selecting that particular place? Are we looking to convert asphalt curbing over to concrete, or is it just because of where that is and where it gets the wear that we're selecting that to be concrete curbing?
I think Mr. Testa asked earlier about I believe it was Mr. Testa, about curbing, who's responsible for it, and Henry responded that he is. He is when it's bituminous curbing, the black curbing. When it's concrete curbing, it falls under engineering, and the reason for this is historical and not worth debating tonight, but our department is responsible for all concrete work, sidewalks, curbing, ramps, driveways, et cetera. So it's not a change of philosophy. We're putting concrete curb out here just because that's what we do, that's what we believe is appropriate, and it'll last a lot longer than the bituminous curb.
Who makes the determination whether or not it's going to be asphalt or concrete?
It's basically a replacement program. We don't do new installation. Our sidewalk program and our curb program are both repair replacement. We don't install in new locations.
Well, okay, because I know right across the street from my house, town spent a lot of money redoing Grebe Road. And they changed how Legas comes down in that turn. And I remember Henry was heralding how there wouldn't be damage. And somebody took out the asphalt curbing, and it's not even, what is it, a year old? And if it was concrete, it would have lasted. So
Concrete curb is about 4 times more expensive than the bituminous. And typically, I would prefer to see concrete every place, but the cost just becomes prohibitive. So the town standard is a bituminous curbing on local town roadways. When we do concrete curb, it's in older subdivisions or areas that have currently concrete curbing that we're replacing.
I understand. It definitely lasts longer, and we would save money by not having to replace curbing over and over and over again. It's a discussion for another day, I guess. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly. Any other questions for the engineering department? On the budget, that is. I guess not. Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Well, thank you.
I could ask him a few.
On your time. All right, up next is the capital and non-recurring budget. Capital non-recurring, referring to page 23.
That's merely the operational accounting of it. The funds get transferred in during the fiscal year from the electric division to the general fund, and then we transfer the funds out of the general fund to the cap and non-recurring bookkeeping fund. So that's that page 23. That's just merely a summary of that you're seeing.
Any questions regarding that? Councilor Fishbein.
Jim, I was just trying to trace this when I was looking through the book, and I didn't see that amount in the electric division's budget.
It's there, yeah.
Is there a line item, and you're saying that?
Give me a minute, maybe I can find it.
There's a transfer in-out line.
If you looked on page 70, which is the electric division's budget, it's almost the very last line. You'll see a transfer out It says to general fund, and you'll see 1,894,445. I hope that's what you're saying.
Yeah, okay, I see that.
That's it for the 14-15 year.
And then you're saying that that goes to the general fund.
There's a revenue in the general fund under the pilot section of revenues. And that'll be the same amount, the payment in lieu of tax amount. And that's the revenue side on the general fund. The expenditure side on the general fund is that page 23 to which Chairman Cervoni just alluded.
Okay, it goes from electric to revenue into this account.
It goes from electric, it's transferred out of electric division to the general fund, and then from the general fund to the cap and non-recurring.
To this account that we're looking at.
Correct. And I really don't know why, and it's just bookkeeping, frankly, but it is the electric pilot, so so that's clear for everybody. And the only thing that I can think of is because it just becomes, when people hear budget, they think general fund, general fund, general fund. That's the only thing I can come up with. This goes back to the ordinance now that funds the cap and non-recurring fund with those four elements that we mentioned in answer to Councilman Testa's question: bonds, state grants, federal grants, transfers in from the general fund, the electric pilot, or taxes in the amount of up to 2 mils, I believe. So I think it's just to coincide with the charter as well. But frankly, I think it's there because it's easier for everyone to see in the general fund. But in the general fund, it's a wash. We get the $1,894,445 in as the pilot revenue, and then on that expense side, we transfer it out to the cap and non-recurring fund.
Okay, that's all I needed to know. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding this budget line? Then moving along to the capital and non-recurring fund, page 83. I believe there were questions during Mr. Thompson's presentation with respect to that. Are there any remaining before we move on past that? It appears none. Page 89, Capital Appropriations Reserve.
Yes, that's, actually, I did make an adjustment that I left in front of your chairs tonight. We had the two items in there, but we did not have the two amounts in there, so I apologize. But it doesn't have an effect on any calculations or anything. So the amount that we're requesting as itemized on that page are for items that have been budgeted and approved by this council in previous fiscal years that usually have a specific purpose, and the purpose is to avoid spikes in the budget for something that we know is going to become a large operational type of cost. And I'd like to use the example that everybody's very aware of, and that's revaluation. A revaluation, what I would call the full-blown revaluation, where people have to come in and do an interior visualization and inspection. I don't want to call it inspection, but an interior visualization of each residence, commercial, and industrial parcel in town. That can cost upwards between $900,000 and $1 million. What is referred to as the interim revaluation, sometimes called a statistical revaluation, which, by the way, also requires a visual, but basically a drive-by, if you will, rather than interior, can cost between $550,000 and $650,000 is what we've experienced. So what we've done in years, for many, long before I got here, is that the town would budget some small amount for revaluation every year. And then when the reval project is done, a contract is signed with a reval company, the funds are available then to pay that without spiking that budget in the year that you have to perform the project. So that's the easiest thing I can think of as a way to illustrate that. The items that you see there that have the numerical 1 in parentheses, those are the items that were removed from various budgets, as I alluded to upon question from Councilman Sullivan tonight, with regards to certain capital items removed that we would like to propose, or we have proposed, that we use some of the surplus funds for now that they're counted and audited and sort of in the bank, so to speak, to alleviate pressure on next year's budget. These are items that between the department and the mayor primarily have been thought of as things that should proceed, and obviously due to the merit. But obviously, if we did not have those surplus funds, we'd be having many different discussions. There would be tremendous pain. There would be reductions in general fund budgets, schools, police, fire, like you won't believe. So having these funds there counted, audited, and in reserve is a great thing, and that's what we propose to do, to take those out. Those add up to $959,008, I believe, assuming that the council approves them. If you do, after the budget is when we come back to the council to get those funds appropriated. But being late in the fiscal year, they may not be able to be completed between, let's say, the middle of May and the end of June. So we request that you folks authorize us to carry them. We call these carry forwards. They're really what we call appropriations in force. That's the technical term that you might see as part of our fund balance in that brief memo I sent you folks about a week and a half ago. But that's what we refer to as the appropriations in force, or, in common parlance, we call it the carry forwards. So hope that wasn't too long of a description.
It's a little late to offer that suggestion.
For what? Should I start with that, or?
I have questions from Councilor Testa.
Okay, so, what determines whether an item is recognized on this list? Is it everything that is physical and is not a road, well, I can't even say that, and it's not like road work that is in the, like was in a previous 6-year capital plan that hasn't been completed yet?
No.
All right.
These are items that were budgeted in the general fund, in prior years' general funds, not in any other capital projects.
Okay, okay. All right, I got you. So so they would not be coming out of a capital, they were never in the capital fund.
That's correct. And maybe,
They just have the word capital in them, so that's what confused me.
correct.
Okay,
We could retitle it. There's no.
no need. I
no
understand now.
promulgated, designation of these things.
Got it.
They tend to be more larger ticket items, so capital is, maybe not the best phrase, but it's close.
All right. But they do, as you mentioned, they represent a portion of our fund balance.
That's correct.
Falling under the categories, either your category that was called committed or assigned?
Committed.
Committed.
Yes.
Committed. Okay, okay. So, well, you said that the committed amount in your memo to us was 911,000, and this totals 1.5 million.
That's at the end of 6/30/2013. We had 911,000.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm good.
Councilor Sullivan, am I correct to understand that you're all set?
Yeah, I'm all set.
Councilor Fishbein?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jim, it's the generator. I understand that it's a placeholder. My understanding is that this is the full expense of the generator.
That's actually, Councilman, our share. The generator is up pushing $500,000. It's in the upper 400s. And the
Because we're
town,
trying to get a grant.
that's correct.
And that's the reason why it's here, because we can't expend these funds and get what's anticipated without finding out where we are on the grant.
That's correct.
Okay, that makes sense. The fire marshal vehicle, we're sort of, putting money away, like reevaluation. But we contemplate this year possibly appropriating funds to buy the police 7 vehicles, and those, as a result of that, certain vehicles that the police have are going to be retired and used by departments. And maybe this isn't a question for you, maybe it's a question for the mayor. Why aren't we just taking one of those vehicles and assigning that to the fire marshal instead of doing this?
Well, at the point the vehicles are retired by the police department, they're used vehicles. I mean, they're not a vehicle also that has a lot of capacity capability. The fire marshal likes the vans because of the equipment they carry in the back of the van. Now the police cars are getting smaller and smaller, and they're having difficulty carrying what they need in them. So I think there's an issue of space that is a real issue.
Okay. And what's the total expenditure anticipated for this fire marshal vehicle?
Well, I know he's got another 10,000 in the budget.
So it's
for
30
you to
grand
make-
based
yeah,
upon
to make
what I
3 of
see
3,
here.
so it's somewhere in that neighborhood.
The property acquisition Prince Street, there's 26,000 left. What is that for?
That was the remainder, you probably recall, when those 2 properties were being contemplated for purchase by the town, we needed to act very quickly on one of them. So we transferred, and it happened very late in the fiscal year. I believe it happened in June, and please allow me a month of wiggle time. I thought it was June. And our Corp Counsel, Janice Small, had to close on this one very quickly. So we had some funds left in our contingency account last year that we transferred, that the council transferred to this line item. And the amount that we brought forward, I think, was the whole amount, because I don't know if she was actually closed in late June or very early July. The other property, which I believe was, and I forgot that there was 58 prints and 60 prints, and I don't recall which was which. The second one we had some time on, so we actually got a resolution for or an actual bond ordinance to do that, although we'll probably fund that with some cash over the next few years just to get rid of that. But because timing was crucial for Attorney Small to close on one of those houses, we paid basically cash. The remainder of those, the $26,000 left, or actually I think it may have been the whole amount, $180,000 for some reason, it's in my head. The amount that has not been spent, the $26,000 and change, I know Mr. McCauley's doing a demolition on that, and there might be some other costs involved with some of that cleanup, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why we're requesting those funds to be carried forward. They may not all be utilized, but I don't want to leave Henry short, or Janice if she needs some type of test done, or the town short and have to come back and get an appropriation or a transfer from contingency next fiscal year. I think the 26, from what I've been led to believe, the 26,000 and change should be enough to meet everyone's needs. And then what happens is, let's say we only spend 15,000 of it, we got $9,000 left. That money doesn't get touched, it lapses, and it goes into what we would call the unassigned portion of the fund balance, per that little memo I sent you a couple weeks ago.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from the council? Can I have a little more information about your question from revenue?
It has to do with the motor vehicle income and whether or not the amount that is budgeted as revenue is appropriate.
If you could direct Mr. Bose to the page and line you're talking about.
Yes, Mr. Bose, thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 9, I'm looking at line 41008, titled Motor Vehicle Suppla.
Oh, the supplemental motor vehicle, yes.
What is that line?
Those are for motor vehicles that are tax on motor vehicles that are not on the grand list on October 1st, because they were purchased after. So when you purchase a vehicle after 10/1, it depends on when you purchase it. We get the list from Department of Motor Vehicles of all those supplemental items, if you will. A separate tax bill gets sent out, usually mid-December through late December for that supplemental list.
And
So it's outside of the grand list per se. The grand list itself does not have those motor vehicles included.
And would you agree that traditionally that number has been higher than what this council has budgeted for?
Well, it depends. It kind of moves all over the place. It's really,
Was it ever been below what this council was budgeted for?
I would say probably no. Probably, and if it was, it'd be very close, but I don't think so.
Because every year that I looked at, it was higher. I mean, I wasn't able to go back.
I will frankly state, and I think I've stated in years past, I am conservative on several of those revenue line items, that being one of them, because sometimes you just don't know what's going to happen with regards to those lists. So some of them are very much a product of the economy. If vehicles aren't selling, things of this nature, or if vehicles are being purchased, they're vehicles of lower value, and things of that nature that might come into effect.
Yeah, I'm just looking at, and we brought this up last year, that we had budgeted 700,000 as income, and through 7 months of the year, we're exceeding that by $40,000.
Yeah, and most of that, I don't have a current number for you, but most of that money is received in January, some of it in February, based upon when the bills go out, because, of course, you only have the same 30-day window to pay it, 30 days or 31 days, I believe, from the date of issuance. So if those are issued in late December, most of those payments come in by late January.
Well, I know that,
So it looks like we're 40,000 to the good as of 1/31/14.
yes, and I recall making a motion last year to adjust that number to 800,000, and I think that's generally where we are. But anyway, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mayor?
Yeah, I just think when it comes to revenues, some will be higher and some will be lower. And we know that some are going to be lower. So it's a roll of the dice, which is without greater certainty as to what is expected as revenue. That becomes a risk, significant risk.
Thank you. With that, I believe we've completed our business for the evening, and so I will entertain the appropriate motion.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Go Rangers.
Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.